Many conquerors have left their indelible mark on history, from monuments, great battles, having places named after them, and praised in song, poetry, and literature. But one man left his mark in a most unusual and prolific way. But few individuals have had as much long-lasting impact across two continents as Genghis Khan. The Mongols eventually controlled between 11 and 12 million contiguous square miles, which is about the size of Africa. This was the largest single contiguous empire in the history of the world. Even today, we can see the impact of his empire building in modern nation-states. Who was Genghis Khan? Why were his armies so effective? Why do an estimated 1 in 200 males on planet Earth carry his DNA? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, military veteran, historian, author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. Most of what we know about Genghis Khan's early life comes from The Secret History of the Mongols, the oldest known work of Mongolian history and literature, which was written soon after his death. Most of what we know in total was written by his allies and subjects. Temujin, who was later better known as Genghis Khan, was born in 1162 in the border region between modern Mongolia and Siberia to a poor nomadic family. And the legend is that he came into the world clutching a blood clot in his right hand after his mother had been kidnapped by his father and forced into marriage. During this period, dozens of nomadic tribes on the Central Asian steppe were constantly fighting, raping, kidnapping, and stealing from each other. Before he turned 10, his father was poisoned by an enemy clan, and after his death, Khan's own clan then deserted the family, including himself, his mother, and his 6 siblings, so that they would not have to care for them and feed them. For some reason, Genghis killed his older half-brother and took over the family, and later he was captured and enslaved by his clan that had abandoned his family, but he was eventually able to escape. In 1178, Khan married Borte and had 4 sons and an unknown number of daughters. After Borte was kidnapped, he rallied allies and rescued her, and as a result was able to make better alliances due to his reputation as a warrior. He managed to unite the warring tribes into a single massive army, and it is possible that millions of people were slaughtered in the course of these conquests. Genghis did something unique in his culture. Instead of using family members as military leaders and political advisors, he preferred to use allies whom he trusted, who were competent and had proven themselves. However, as was customary, he executed the leaders of enemy tribes while accepting the remaining members into his own clan. Being pragmatic, he ordered that all looting must wait until after a complete victory was assured to avoid distractions, and he organized his military into units, what we would call squads today of 10 men, without regard to clan or familiar relationship. By 1205, Khan had defeated all of his enemies and tribal rivals, including his former best friend Jabuka. Then, in 1206, he called a meeting of all the tribal representatives from every part of his growing empire and established a unified nation similar in size to modern Mongolia. After he united the steppe tribes and won his first few battles, Genghis Khan ruled over around 1 million people of many ethnic groups. This was when he was proclaimed Chinggis, or Genghis Khan, which roughly translate into universal ruler, and it is interesting to know that the word Khan appears in many languages and cultures, especially in India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and throughout the Asian world. As an indication of his intellect, he eliminated inherited aristocratic titles, forbade the selling and kidnapping of women, banned the enslavement of any Mongol, and made livestock theft punishable by death. Genghis Khan also saw the shortcomings of illiteracy, and he ordered the creation of a writing system, established a regular population census, granted diplomatic immunity to foreign ambassadors, and was perhaps the first leader in history to allow freedom of religion. As was usual during those days, Khan also had to worry about betrayal and also keeping a population peaceful, so despite his being polytheistic, he accepted Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists, and he granted religious freedom to those he conquered. He also established a code of law that abolished torture, encouraged trade from Asia to Europe, and he also created the first international postal system. Genghis Khan's first campaign outside of Mongolian-held territory was against the Xizhia Kingdom in northwestern China, when he launched an invasion in 1209 that brought his army to the capital of Yinchuan. His methods were revolutionary, and unlike other armies before him or even after, the Mongols traveled without supply trains other than a large reserve of horses. They lived off the land, making them more mobile and rapid on the advance. His army was entirely cavalry, perhaps the best horsemen in history, who were deadly accurate on the gallop with their unique recurved bows, which were far stronger and had greater range than other bows of the period. At 100 yards, a Mongol bowman on horseback could place around 10 arrows per minute into a man-sized target, with the arrows penetrating up to 2 inches through a wooden shield, let alone armor. Tactically, he was imaginative, such as at Yinchuan, where the Mongols deployed a false withdrawal, luring their enemy to pursue, and then turning back to attack while the main force was on the flanks, left and right, to envelop their enemy. The center force was bait. At Yinchuan, the Mongols attempted to flood the city, which failed, but Xizhia surrendered and presented the Mongols tribute. The Mongols saw the wealth of China, and they wanted more. All the while, he bred many offspring with untold thousands of women, as did his sons. The Mongols next focused upon the Jin dynasty of northern China, where they had demanded that Khan and his army surrender. Being heavily outnumbered, Khan decided upon a campaign of guerrilla warfare, and from 1211 to 1214 ravaged the countryside mercilessly, sending refugees fleeing for the protection of the cities. By living off the land, and with no one left to plant and harvest, a famine ensued, and the Jin army, having to decide who ate and who did not, executed tens of thousands of its own peasants. Finally, in 1214, the Mongols besieged the capital of Jiangdu, now Beijing, and the Jin ruler agreed to pay the Mongols off and gave Genghis Khan silk, silver, gold, and horses. But the Jin leadership still had to submit, and when the Jin ruler moved his court south to the city of Kaifeng, Genghis Khan considered it a breach of their agreement, and his army, along with Jin deserters, sacked Jiangdu to the ground, destroying everything. This would become a pattern of Genghis Khan. Another method he employed was to take a city or defeat an enemy, but leave a few of them alive. They were ordered to ride far and advertise the coming of the Mongols with instructions that if a city surrendered peacefully, no harm would come to them. If they refused and defied him, there would be hell to pay, literally. Genghis Khan had perfected the art of psychological warfare, and it paid off with great dividends. In 1219, Genghis Khan attacked the Khwarezm Empire in what is today Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and Iran, and the Sultan had agreed to a trade deal. But when the first caravan arrived, the contents had been stolen and the merchants were killed. In retaliation, the Sultan murdered some of Genghis Khan's ambassadors, which was not wise. Well, the Mongols ravaged every city within the empire. The skilled workers and artisans, such as carpenters, brickmakers, stonemasons, and jewelers, were often spared. Members of the nobility and soldiers who did not surrender were killed. Those not considered valuable were used as human shields during the next attack on subsequent cities. Many paraded and executed in front of city walls to make a point. Genghis Khan returned to Mongolia in 1225, and he controlled a huge territory from the Sea of Japan to the Caspian Sea. Nevertheless, he soon revisited the Xizhia kingdom, which had refused to provide troops for his Khwarezm invasion. During this campaign, a horse threw Genghis Khan to the ground in 1227, causing internal injuries. But he did continue with the campaign, but his health never recovered. He died on August 18, 1227, just before the Zhizhou were crushed. Genghis Khan died before the capitulation. His final resting place remains unknown. The eventual Mongol presence would be felt and take hold from modern-day Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, and northeast Russia, Ukraine, to China, Vietnam, and Korea, and also include Tibet, northern India, Afghanistan, all the way to Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. Genghis Khan brought the Far East and Europe together as had no other man in history. His descendants, including sons Ogadai and grandson Kublai, conquered their way to Eastern Europe, took Middle East, and absorbed the rest of China and Southeast Asia. It is unknown how many hundreds if not thousands of women he had intimate relations with, as well as his sons and grandsons from his various known concubines and wives such as Borte, Yasugin, Yasui, Kulan, Merga Khatun, who later married Ogadai Khan, Turbisu, Ibakabeki, Chaka, and Kiko. His sons, Jochi, Ogadai, Chagatai, and Tolui, also carried on in the same manner, spreading their seed all over Asia to Eastern Europe, which explains the massive DNA spread. Kublai Khan, son of Tolui, also did his part to populate Asia. Timur, also known as Tamerlane or Timur the Lame, claimed a relationship to Chagatai. His descendants in India, the Timurids, retained pride in their Genghiside heritage. In Russia, among the Muslim Tatars, and in Central Asia, among the Uzbeks, they claim to be descendants from Genghis Khan, and DNA seems to prove this to be a fact. One famous Genghis quote is, "The greatest joy for a man is to defeat his enemies, to drive them before him, and take from them all they possess, to see those they love in tears, to ride their horses, and to hold their wives and daughters in his arms." Genghis Khan himself conquered more than twice as much land as any other person in history. Kublai Khan, his grandson, even invaded Japan and Java before their empire broke apart in the 14th century. Genghis Khan's last ruling descendant, Said Mir Muhammad Alimkhan, was the last emir of the Uzbek Mangit dynasty, who was finally deposed by the Soviets in 1920, and he died in Afghanistan in 1944 in exile. In 2003, a groundbreaking historical genetics paper reported results which indicated that a substantial proportion of men in the world are direct line descendants of Genghis Khan. By direct line, they carry Y chromosomes, which seem to have come down from an individual who lived approximately 1,000 years ago. As Y chromosomes are only passed from father to son, that would mean that the Y is a record of one's patrilineage. Of interest, at least 16 million men worldwide carry the Genghis Khan gene. Thanks for watching today's episode of Forgotten History. If you like this episode, please consider becoming a channel member or joining our Patreon page. This would help us offset the ever-increasing cost of production. As always, please like, share, and comment. And if you have any show ideas, please contact us, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Until next time.